most important thing. As soon as you get it perfect, now positioning becomes the most important thing. Because if you clean it really well, and you apply it really well, but it's crooked as all get out, it's no good. After you get it positioned perfectly, application becomes the most important thing. Now I know that part right there is where I squeaked it. I don't know if this rest, if somebody else bumped it, touched it, doesn't matter. This part here is kind of where I was doing my testing. It's been on there now for what? An hour and a half, right?
At least.
Something like that. So you can hear it's starting to stick a lot better. Listen to that. So that's good for what I'm trying to do. I like to have a vinyl that is a little bit easy to install. Me, I'm kind of lazy. I want a vinyl that's going to go on easy. It gives me a little chance to kind of mess around and finesse it a little bit. But it builds to a high tack pretty quickly after I've installed it, so I'm going to get good long-term adhesion. That's, for me, that's the best kind of material I like. So what we're going to do here is we're going to try to pre-stretch this vinyl a little bit. Once we get it peeled halfway, we're going to anchor it in the center, on the easiest part. Right here in the middle on this flat part, a little squeegee area, so it sticks good. Then we're going to take the other half with the pole. I'm going to start warming it up. One guy's going to hold the vinyl by holding that pole. The other guy's going to run the lamp. We're going to have it out here like this so it's not touching the car. Okay? You got enough people, a third person might even just try barely supporting the top and bottom in the middle so it doesn't, when it gets hot, it doesn't stick to itself or something like that. Eventually, though, what we're going to do is we're going to warm it up real nice. You cannot do it with a heat gun. You cannot do it with a torch. You cannot do it with 10 heat guns or 10 torches. It won't work, trust me. I tried it once before I had that, and you can't get it warm enough. But anyway, the nice thing about it is you can turn this little handle and you can rotate it to where it's up this way or it's this way. And you can raise it up and down on the stand. So what we usually do is we turn it vertical, we lower it down till it's about the same height, the same size as that vinyl, and then you can just roll that stand back and forth. Then, one guy on the pole, then he's stretching it nice and slow and even once it starts warming up. Generally speaking, these pieces of vinyl on most cars are about 10 feet, 120 inches. Half of it, 60 inches. 10%, 6 inches. If you stretch that thing 6 inches, you're only stretching it 10%. Is that going to be enough? I don't know. Depends on the car. Even if you stretch it 1 foot, you're still at 20%. You should be okay. And remember that that 20% stretched area is only going to be on the easy flat part and everything else is going to be shrunk. We printed this pattern. Bruce asked me what we should do and I said, you know what? Let's print a grid pattern on there, something measurable. Let them see how much it's getting stretched. Let them see how much it's shrinking. Because we don't get to see that in the real world. It's a real job. So this is just going to be for your benefit. And on certain parts of this car, if you want to try to keep that design as much as you can, like it is now, so you're not trying to destroy the design, it would work. No one, it's not physically possible, by definition, to take a flat piece of vinyl and apply it to a compound or a complex curve shape, anything that's changing shape in more than one direction at the same time. It's impossible to do it without stretching. This is a cool tool, and it actually is really good for this. It's called a wrap cut knife. And what it allows you to do is cut the liner paper anywhere you want so that you could start the graphic there if you're not peeling off all the paper at once for some reason. So if you ever had a situation where I really didn't want to take all this paper off to get to here, like a lot of times people find that on a van. You start high at the back of that Chevy or Ford van, you're okay, you take it down from the top, but when you get to the driver's door, and you got that window and that mirror, a lot of times you want to start right underneath the door. It'd be really nice sometimes if you can just open it up and start there and not have to have the whole thing peeled at once. See if it works. Now, one or two things happen. I cut the paper perfectly, or I cut the vinyl in half. We're going to find out in a minute which it was. That's a nice tool for this bumper trick because if there's only one or two guys in your shop who are working on this thing, hopefully got more than one, at least two.
Is that a tool you sell?
Yeah, I do sell these. They're $30 on my website, bobivers.com. Anyway, so now we can leave that one side until we're ready for it. It's pretty easy, right? That is close enough for what we're going to do. You can just gently wrap yours around and put the magnet on. And you can take the paper off of yours Let's make sure the vinyl's smooth and tight on this pull. I mean, smooth and tight. No weirdness. And then let's even wrap it around. Not all the way, but just a little so it doesn't come loose, okay? All I'm going to do is start warming this up. And you can imagine if I had one 3 foot tall, it'd be a little easier, right? Because that's about how big the vinyl is, or a little less. Probably the vinyl's 30 inches or something. If he wants to know, is it getting hot, it will eventually. You don't have to do anything yet. You just kind of watch it. Try not to get blinded by the light. Blinded! That's a different thing. All right, anyway. Once I feel like I'm starting to get it to warm up a little bit, I go a little bit fast in the beginning. If I go really slow, you know, I can actually make this stuff start smoking and melting. Start a gentle pressure evenly, top and bottom. Just start, see where you're at on the ground now, and envision where 6 inches might be on the other side of that brown stain, and just start slowly pulling it towards you. Top and bottom the same. I don't want to stretch one more than the other. I'm putting a little bit of extra heat right here where this corner is. Or even over here where it might be, where it's going to be when we stretch it a little bit. See how it's getting all these horizontal lines?
Right.
That's what that third person can do once we get going.
Right.
Keep pulling, right? Keep pulling, yeah. The idea is if we pull it just the right amount, it's going to help us when we get to that corner. And if we still have to stretch it when we're all done, then it means we didn't pull it enough. Come back a little bit. Got one little. Okay, try it again. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Okay, here's the wheel well, so that's good. You can just cut that pull off, or you're already off.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the general idea for the stretching thing. You can also relieve this anytime you want. Put it back to where it was by, you know, heating it and letting it shrink. That's why I like this wet glove thing. Every once in a while you might need to come up and just let a little air out if you have to. The vinyl will shrink even without heat. It just takes a lot longer. So this right here is starting to want to go back to its original shape. The vinyl is like a rubber band, right? When you heat it, when you stretch it, it wants to go back. So watch what's going to happen here, and I don't think it's going to be good. I'm going to try to get rid of these wrinkles first. But anyway, just for example, what's going to happen here then, in this corner where I have usually too much vinyl, watch what happens when I start heating it, and it starts shrinking. You see what it's doing? It's going up. What I want you to see is this part up here. Usually I would take all this, no wrinkles please, finish that. But let's just watch what happens up here. First you got to relieve them. You got to get the vinyl loose so that it can move. You know, it can't shrink back if it's stuck to something. So usually you get up to this body line there, squeegee well, wrinkle, 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 fix, fix, fix. Lightly tack that. There. You have to stretch it to make it work if you don't do this technique. And then you can't really stretch it the way you want to because the light's in the way. Then you got to take the light off. Then you got to take the grill out and all these crazy things. But with this technique, it should almost, especially on this car, just really install itself. See it shrinking? This is like going back to its original. Those squares are pretty much, I'm not saying it's going to be totally unstretched everywhere because these are a little wider, but right there where we had that hard area, I'm not having to pull on it. The vinyl's laying down real nice, cooperating really well, and these curves here like that, it just shrinks back. So this is the idea of using the pre-stretching technique to make your bumpers have really good adhesion around the outside edges where you need it most. By stretching them a little ahead of time, maybe 10 or 15%, and then shrinking it back again like that. See them go back?
Yeah.
Right there on that square? Problem is now if I squeeze it while it's hot, I might stretch it again. So what I'm going to try to do is get it loose after it cools a little bit, and try to put it without a whole lot of pressure.